Hi there, beautiful soul. So, a big question in recovery is how not to do things stressfully. And almost everybody that I talk, and I almost only talk to people with chronic fatigue syndrome nowadays, well, they all have this underlying pressure to perform, to do things, to be a certain type of person, and a lot of pressure and perfectionism, and they feel like a drive and they can't relax. So they always have to keep going themselves and maybe prove to themselves or to others that they're worthy. Now, this behavior is what I call fight or flight behavior because it is fighting and flighting an internal stressor that is inside of ourselves, but then projected outside in the external world and then to act from that place to see if we can get rid of something that is inside of us. So whenever we stop, we arrive at ourselves, at the feeling that we try to avoid. Plus, it only makes things worse because if you give, for example, if you have, for example, the feeling of unworthiness, and then you keep running away from yourself, you only enhance the feeling of unworthiness. And then you need to do more. So it's always more. And maybe it worked for a while, this behavior, but it's no longer working, especially not when you're healing from a chronic disease or having chronic fatigue syndrome or having any other type of symptoms. And I think as well that the world is ready right now to act from a different place. But how to do it? Because many people have, well, when they are in a situation like that, with all these internal stressors, they of course have a very full mind who's always trying to analyze everything and what's the best way to make something like an action or something that we can change on ourselves with the mind. And the mind is coming from a place of unease. So we're trying to improve ourselves with the world via the same thing that thinks that the world is not good enough. So it's a never-ending circle, and it only gets worse. So in um, in the recovery program, I talk about the third phase of recovery, which I call no man's land. It's a phase where you really, yeah, you get so sleepy, you get tired, but in a different way, like a nice way of, nice kind of tired. And this phase can last for a week, maybe sleep 16 hours a day. And I think it's beautiful. It's what people used to do in holidays before they thought that a holiday should be mountains climbing and all that kind of things. Sometimes when people are on holiday, I can see that they are actually unable to have a holiday, unable to function without stress. So if stress is all you can, then how can you relax? Sometimes I notice as well in old programming myself that, like for example, today I'm like, maybe called no man's land, or it's a relaxation day. I can just lay the entire day in a hammock or on the beach or just relax. But sometimes when other people are around, I feel the underlying old program to maybe pretend that I'm busy. Because as a child, I did not want to engage with all this stupid stuff at school. So I was pretending to be busy. And yeah, not engaging with that old program is, of course, interesting. So, no man's land, I think it's beautiful. And Dr. Hammer from Germanic New Medicine calls it the warm phase of recovery. So he calls chronic fatigue syndrome as a phase where the sort of a relaxation phase after stressors. Stressors can come up, stressors that you resist, and then you get into a cold phase with cold feet. And then no man's land is a warm phase where your hands might get warmer and where you can finally recover. So after being in survival mode for, let's say, decades, how do you relax? And that is, of course, not something that I can answer, but My dog is laying here right now. I think he can answer it if he spoke English. So how to relax? It's also saying goodbye to the survival personality that you've created, and to breath by breath, step by step, do things from a different place. Not committing yourself to big activities that you think that you have to do, maybe because of the fear of missing out. This is something that I get a lot in emails. Breath by breath, what do you feel like doing now? And how can you maintain the calmness of no man's land? Or how can you find no man's land? Some people have never been in there. All they know is being wired and tired. And maybe they have to surrender to the symptoms, surrender to their body, surrender to situation. Start breathing a little bit, because if you breathe from survival mode, it's very superficial. So breathing a little bit, breathing a little bit more deeper can help. But of course, it's not easy to answer like that, and the recovery program is full of tips, and maybe you can find your own way into doing this. Anyway, my dog is not so relaxed right now. He's licking the wall. Maybe there is something on there. I wish you a beautiful day. Bye.